Good evening and salutations, my Jade fans. Okay, so this was a very weird episode. I mean, you can tell that this seemed like it was more or less kind of a filler in some cases, and in others, I just don't even know where to begin. And we're gonna start off with this home and heart stuff, which, to be honest, not exactly a fan of it. But I'm gonna try not to be a negative Nancy about it and just keep it moving. So Brooklyn and Lois, I mean not Brooklyn, Brooklyn and Lucy are back there to sit there and sell their products and stuff. And Brooklyn's a little nervous. Well, she says she's a little nervous because she hasn't really done that stuff in a while, and it's just kind of she always had a mom doing it or somebody else doing it, so she's a little nervous about it. She tells Lois, I mean Lucy. But I feel like it's a little bit more than just that. Yes, she hasn't done it in a while, and I get that, but she also has a lot of other stuff going on. She has this back and forth feud now with Lulu. She is pretty much estranged from her son that wants nothing to do with her. On top of, kind of having some cold feet about redoing that stuff again. But for some odd reason, at the last possible minute, Lucy decides to bring Lois on. Like, just completely and utterly ambushes her. And in the beginning, I'm like, Lois, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm more just like, why did you not sit there and call her, text her, say you're going to be doing this segment with her? Or at least be there for deception business. Turns out she didn't even know. So Brooklyn's like, what the And so she's like, all right, fine, whatever. Lois is here. She's kind of the part of this. I'm let her just handle this. Lucy, in her infinite wisdom, decides, oh, I think it'd be a really great idea if both of y'all do it. Because the thing is, it's not like Lucy didn't know what's going on between those two. So they wound up doing the segment and everything. And at the end of it, Brooklyn's like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you do that for? And of course, Lois is like, listen, I never would have, I never would have came if Lucy didn't trick me. So, I can't even sit there and be upset with Lois because she didn't even know. And, Lucy, here's the thing. Lucy was like, listen, I did it for deception. I was like, okay, so like usual, you saw money and you said, the hell with everybody else. And this isn't the first time she practically sold her soul for some money. I mean, hell, she's not there working with Sitwell. So that says all you need to know at this point. So of course she's like, yeah, listen, I did it for deception, but can't you two just find a way to just like get past this? I'm like, I don't think it's really that easy. Now, well, Lois is like, listen, I didn't like the fact that you tricked me, but it was good to sit there and see you again and talk to you and stuff like that. Um, And then Brooklyn, out of nowhere, decides to fire her. I'm like, okay, did you miss the part where she said that she was tricked there? She wouldn't even have actually showed up if she would have knew? And you're more upset with Lucy. What? So because you can't fire Lucy and you're upset with Lucy, you decide to sit there and take it on your mother? See, let me tell you something. This is the reason why I don't do teams. This is exactly the reason, because I've seen this stuff online. Oh, I'm Team Brooklyn. I'm Team Lulu. I'm Team nobody. Because I'll actually tell you the truth, both of those two irritate the shit out of me at times. Both of those two. And so I can't sit there and do teams because if I pick one side, I'm pretty much ignoring the dumb shit that the other person's or the dumb shit that that person's doing. And I'm like, that's pretty. Like, don't get me wrong. I get that she's upset with her mother. I get that part. But her firing her was completely and utterly out of pocket. Now, I think this is more of a reason because, what the hell is her name? Sophia, hold on, what the hell is her name? ran a sofa. So I was like, I'm not gonna be sitting there looking like no dumbass in these streets. Um, I don't know. I heard a rumor that like she is somewhat semi-retiring, so she's probably not gonna be on there as much. Probably handling like deception work, but it still just seemed out of pocket for her to fire her own mother, especially being tricked and she didn't even know. But Brooklyn has been on one. Lulu has been on one. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to Carly and Jack. So Jack decided to rent out the entire pool so he can spend time with Carly. And here's my thing. After Carly sits there and tells Brennan, why she's, a little kind of down or whatever about the whole Sasha and the baby and the Michael situation. Brendan, he's looking, a little kind of stressed or whatever, right? So Carly's like, what's going on? But, Jack can only tell him so much because, spot. And this is my whole thing. I'm like, this is the second man that you have been with that can't tell you about their work, um, has dangerous enemies that you have been caught in the crossfire. Because Jack got enemies, not just Valentine, but Jack got enemies. And my whole thing is like, have you learned nothing from Sonny? Like seriously. And while yes, you do have two two grown kids or whatever, you still do have a little one. And again, he almost died simply just by being with him. I don't know. I don't. This is exactly why I always sit there and I look at Jack or Jax, and I always felt like Jax was probably the best husband that she was ever going to sit there and have. And I don't really remember the circumstances about it, but it's like you always seem to be picking men that is just no good for you and no good for your kids. Um, Now speaking of kids, Jocelyn Jocelyn don't like the idea of Jack dating her mom. And there's a point where she was like, doesn't his superiors know, or shouldn't his superiors know about, what Jack is there doing with my mother, whatever? Isn't it like, against the rules or something like that? And she practically wants to sit there and tell him her boss. And Vaughn is like, you do realize if you do that, any assignment that you get in the future is going to be hell. You're going to be sitting at some desk job, doing some boring shit with no windows. Do you want to do that? And she's like, yeah, you do have a point. And I'm like, wait, hold on. In what universe do you honestly think that you're going to be able to tell on any one of your bosses, no matter where you work at, and thinking that things are just going to be easy peasy? Now, I know Jocelyn can be a brat at times, but she's never really been stupid. And so I don't really understand why there's times where they will write these characters in a way that doesn't necessarily reflect them, right? And we'll go with Dante and Anna. Anna's not there telling Dante that Jocelyn isn't playing spy. She is a spy, and she tells him how, why, and the circumstances of most likely how he recruited her based off of her own experience. Now, there's a point where Dante's asking questions, right? And the type of questions that he's not there asking is the type of questions that a viewer would ask, not somebody who has also been at one point working for the WSB. So I felt like some of that stuff or whatever, like, oh, well, she never really showed any interest in law enforcement, will make her sit there and do it. Well, let's sit there and think. Why did you do it? Why did you go back? Because you want to sit there and get revenge because apparently somebody did something to Lulu and you couldn't let that go. Well, what do you think happened in Jocelyn's life? Oh, her boyfriend got murdered. That's what happened. It's one of those things where it's like I felt like you should have kind of picked up on some of that stuff but he's asking questions more like a viewer would, not somebody who's been there and can understand that. Anyway, all she pretty much does is just walks him through it. Um, somebody actually left a very funny comment when I was watching it on YouTube. It was like, it's amazing how fast Anna was able to, you know, solve that whole thing. Like as far as Jocelyn and, you know, what else? The Jocelyn and part of her motivation was going after Cyrus and everything like that and all that stuff. She's able to sit there and piece all that together. And yet she can't really sit there and be solving any crimes. I found that shit funny. I rarely will sit there and read, some comments sometimes in the comment sections whenever I'm watching something, but I felt that was funny. Jason could not board that plane that he saw Brit on. And so he pretty much just there thinks about the last time that he was with Brit. And you know what kind of sucks though a little bit? Is that this was just another moment in time where Jason had to sit there and sacrifice his happiness, what he wanted, to clean up another one of Sonny's messes. And it's just like, even before when he was with Sasha, Sasha was like, at some point you're gonna have to sit there and start thinking about what you want. Like what do you want? Because people don't really ask him what does he want. People ask him what can he do for them. Michael, Carly, Sonny, and at one point Jocelyn, or a couple of times. But nobody asked him what he wants. So it was it kind of sucked. Especially that last one, how they had to sit there and marry, and I don't know. I felt like even when they were like kissing, it was like watching brother and sister kiss with Carly and Jason. Um, but yeah, what else? What else? Oh, and then at the end of it, Britt goes, okay, so Jocelyn and Vaughn, or Vaughn is not there saying that the courier has went to some place. I don't know, it's like Russia or something like that. I forgot where it was. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. But wherever that courier went, it's the same place that Brit is at. And I knew that. I knew Brit was gonna have something to do with this whole WSB thing. Because apparently she's been living there for a while, and she said that she's going back home in a sense. Now, granted, I'm saying Brit, but in reality, we don't even know if she's going to be playing Brit or anything else. We have no idea. Um, and I feel like that's pretty much about it. Like I said, there wasn't really a lot that was actually going on in this episode. It felt like it was more of a filler, more of a in between, especially with Jason. Because I'm going to be honest, like Jason, I mean, Jason, his scenes was not really. I guess the scenes was necessary because they did need to sit there and do flashbacks. Okay, fine. It was minorly necessary. Um, and I guess in some way, the only reason why I would sit there and say that the Carly and Jocelyn, I mean the Carly and Jack scenes was necessary, is because Dante's like listen, when Carly finds out what Jack did, and even if it's the simple fact that Jack used Carly to get to just to recruit Jocelyn, it's going to change our whole view on the relationship. That's number two. Number one, she's gonna be furious about the whole Johnson being involved with the WSB. So maybe that was another reason why. I don't know. Anyway, feel like that's about. Feel like that's about it. There might have been some stuff I missed here or there, but that is the general gist of the episode. Now I'm not going to be streaming tonight, but I will be back tomorrow. Streaming the usual time, talking about all five of the subs. You know how it is. If you're not a member, make sure you join and become a member. Um, On top of the exclusive videos that I do for members, we've also been sitting there watching. We've also been doing reaction videos and watching classic stuff. I think we saw Santa Barbara last yesterday. Wow. So yeah, definitely become a part of that by clicking the link in the description box below. Um, we'll watch all other sorts of stuff, passions, all my children, and things of that nature. So with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.